They found her standing in the doorway, a stroller in front of her. Inside was not a sleeping child, but the lifeless body of her daughter, Isabella. The arresting officer's words were cold and steady. "I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder." Isabella was only 2 years and 9 months old, a little girl who should have been safe in her mother's arms, but instead, she became the victim of betrayal no child should ever endure. Her broken bones weren't seen as cries for help, but dismissed as accidents during potty training. The bruises, the torn skin from savage beatings explained away. Her mother, Chelsea, wasn't blind. She chose to look away. Worse, she chose the man who inflicted the pain. A man with "pure hell" tattooed across his knuckles. In court, she admitted it openly. "Yes, I was ready to sacrifice my child for a relationship with him." For 3 days, high on drugs, Chelsea pushed her daughter's corpse around town in a stroller. She shopped. She drank. She flirted with the man who killed her child, laughing as if nothing had happened. While Isabella's tiny body decomposed in a shower stall, her mother poured wine in pubs and covered the stroller with shopping bags. This wasn't just a crime, it was a nightmare disguised as motherhood. And when the truth came out, the world asked the same question. What sentence could possibly match a mother's decision to trade her daughter's life for a violent addiction? But before we get to that answer, you need to understand who Isabella was, the little girl whose life was stolen. She was born the 22nd of September, 2020, at Stevenage Hospital, north of London, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed angel who stole her father Thomas's heart the moment he held her. "She was an extension of me," he later told the court, tears streaming down his face. The Wen family settled in Bedfordshire. To outsiders, they looked like the picture of love. Chelsea worked at a daycare, showering her daughter with affection. Thomas filled weekends with adventures, zoo trips, playtime, laughter that echoed in ball pits. Isabella's joy was simple: Minnie Mouse toys, Peppa Pig, orange crisps, sweet fruit drinks, rides at shopping centers that made her giggle with bravery. She was a happy child. "They adored her," recalled family friend Joanne Gardner. Isabella was healthy, cheerful, speaking in full sentences at just 2.5 years old. To those who knew her, she was the center of the universe. But within months, that universe collapsed. In April 2023, Chelsea split from Thomas. He begged to see Isabella, but she shut him out. What Thomas didn't know was that Chelsea had already chosen a different path, the one that would lead Isabella straight to her killer. In May 2023, Scott Jeff entered their lives. A 24-year-old addict with dead eyes and violent hands. He'd once lured Chelsea into drugs, and now, she brought him back, this time into her daughter's life. Scott wasn't a father, he was a predator. He claimed Isabella as his own child, simply because she looked like him. Chelsea didn't argue. Within days, she handed him authority over her daughter. What followed was not parenting, but torture. Scott turned potty training into punishment. For every accident, Isabella's tiny hands were slapped raw. Cold showers became his weapon of choice, her cries echoing as he laughed. And Chelsea? She stood by. She explained away the bruises as falls. She hid her daughter's face behind sunglasses. She let drugs fill the child's bloodstream. The family drifted from hotels into a tent on a windswept beach, where Scott's violence grew unchecked. Neighbors heard Isabella's screams, described as gurgling cries of agony. One day, police officers even approached, concerned for the child's welfare. Isabella stood silently in an oversized sweatshirt beside the tent, her eyes filled with sadness. That moment could have saved her life. But Chelsea turned her back again, and the torture continued. 10 days later, Isabella would be dead. She was already known to social services in 3 different counties. On the 6th of June, her grandmother called Hertfordshire police, terrified for her granddaughter's safety. But agencies failed to share information. Each one decided it wasn't their responsibility. The cracks in the system became a death sentence for a 2-year-old child. Then came the 18th of June, Father's Day in Britain. For most families, a day of love and gratitude. For Isabella, it became the darkest symbol of betrayal. While her real father, Thomas, called police stations and hospitals desperately searching for her, Chelsea handed Scott a "World's Best Dad" card and 3 cans of beer. That night, enraged at Isabella's crying, Scott yanked the little girl by her wrists until both of her arms snapped. Then he hit her in the face for daring to scream. Father's Day ended with broken bones. On the 19th of June, the family traveled by train to Ipswich. Isabella no longer walked. She was carried limply in adult arms, her small wrists fractured, her body hidden under a hooded jacket and sunglasses. They moved into a house on Sidegate Lane. There, Scott escalated his cruelty. He recorded his violence on his phone, making a gun with his fingers and pretending to shoot at Isabella, laughing when she cried in fear, screaming, "Boo!" in her face as she fell asleep, delighting in her terror. Chelsea sat nearby, smiling when the camera caught her. The mother of the child laughed at her daughter's suffering. The abuse grew savage. Punches to Isabella's stomach, kicks to her tiny body as she lay on the floor. Her little hands tried to shield her face, but Scott struck harder. He even forced Isabella to lie, filming her as she said her real father, Thomas, was the one who hurt her. A 2-year-old child, coerced into betraying the only parent who truly loved her. The 26th of June, 2023, was Isabella's final day. At 5:55 p.m., surveillance cameras captured Scott returning home, his hand wrapped in a makeshift bandage. He had hit Isabella so hard, he injured himself. That night, Isabella cried for her mother, but Chelsea ignored her. Scott attacked again, beating the child until her pelvis shattered. Bone marrow entered her bloodstream and lungs, causing a fatal embolism. At 11:37 p.m., Isabella died in agony, gasping for words that would never come, her eyes fixed on the mother who refused to save her. What did Chelsea and Scott do when their daughter died? 30 minutes later, they went shopping. Surveillance cameras showed them laughing, hugging, kissing, appearing like a carefree couple. Meanwhile, Isabella's body lay lifeless at home. For 3 days, they wheeled her corpse around town in a stroller, pretending she was alive. They went to McDonald's, ordered food, set the stroller beside them as they ate. They shopped for Xbox games, piling plastic bags on top of Isabella's body. On buses, they waved to drivers, smiling like a happy family. In reality, they were pushing death through the streets. Scott's phone revealed his next plan. Google searches for flights to Scotland, trains to Amsterdam, even local news articles on death. He asked Chelsea to buy a shovel. They planned to burn and bury Isabella like garbage. On the 30th of June, they stuffed her body into a shower stall, wrapped in blankets, and went to the pub. For 6 hours they drank and laughed, while Isabella decomposed in the bathroom. Chelsea even texted a friend. Isabella died 3 days ago. We left her in the bathroom. When urged to call for help, she replied, "We can't. She's all bruised. They'll put us in jail." On the 1st of July, 2023, police finally arrested Chelsea and Scott in Bury St. Edmunds. As the handcuffs went on, Scott muttered lies. "I didn't kill her. I was going to turn myself in tomorrow." His Google searches told the truth. He planned to flee. Chelsea's reaction? Calm, almost casual. No tears, no questions about her daughter. Her only concern was her vape. In court, the horror deepened. Asked if she sacrificed her daughter for Scott, Chelsea answered yes. Asked why she never stopped the violence, she called it a temporary phase, as if broken bones, torn flesh, and fatal injuries were just part of potty training. This wasn't a phase, it was the deliberate destruction of a child by the two people she should have trusted most. The autopsy revealed the full scale of horror Isabella endured. The cause of death, a bone marrow embolism from catastrophic skeletal trauma. Both wrists had been broken 8 to 14 days before her death. Her pelvis shattered within 24 hours of the final beating. Injuries covered her tiny body, head, neck, torso, limbs, back. Even her perineum bore evidence of assault. In her blood, traces of cocaine and cannabis. A pathologist compared her injuries to those suffered by crash victims in cars traveling 70 miles per hour. The verdict came swiftly. Scott received life imprisonment, a minimum of 26 years before parole. Chelsea, her mother, received just 10 years for causing or allowing her daughter's death, 10 years for hiding broken bones, 10 years for pushing a stroller with her dead child inside, 10 years for drinking wine while Isabella's body rotted in a shower stall. She will walk free at 34. She may have more children. Isabella will never see her 3rd birthday. Her father, Thomas Wen, lives with grief that never fades. Part of me died with her. My role as a father was stolen by two of the most evil people. I became a shadow of who I was. Her grandmother visits the cemetery every day, placing Isabella's favorite Watsits crisps and fruit drinks at her grave. "My house is now quiet and empty," she says. Isabella would be 4 today, running, laughing, playing with friends. Instead, Her loved ones talked to stone. The system failed her. Police at the beach could have saved her. Hotel guests heard her screams but never acted. Agencies held her file, but no one shared the warnings. And above all, her mother, the one person who should have protected her, betrayed her. Isabella lived 1,006 days, the last 36 of them in hell. Rest in peace, little angel. But evil does not end with one case. In southern Kentucky, another man sits behind bars, this time accused of killing not one, but two children. His name is Jordan Taylor. First, he was charged with murdering his girlfriend's 3-year-old daughter, Amora Smallwood. Now, investigators believe he is responsible for the death of his own 6-month-old son. Evil rarely strikes like lightning. It seeps in like poison, slow, steady, testing boundaries. Taylor understood that process well. He didn't storm into a family's life. He slithered in, like a snake. He dropped hints of past violence, showed photos of injuries, made threats. And when no one stopped him, he learned the most dangerous lesson, that he could do anything. Amora never knew she had become a target in his cruel game. Friends, before we dive deeper into this next story, tell me in the comments what city and what time you are watching this from. This story needs to travel the world because every child's voice deserves to be heard. The 13th of January, 2020. At a hospital in Corbin, Kentucky, the world welcomed Amora Michelle Smallwood. She was a tiny 7-pound miracle whose first cry filled her young parents, Jimmy Smallwood and Alexandra Ward, with joy. Barely 18 years old, Alexandra held her newborn and wrote later, "I never felt a bond so strong until they placed you in my arms." Amora's first years were filled with love. Jimmy wasn't just a father, he was her best friend. Photographs from those early years tell a story words can barely capture. A proud father holding his baby girl in sunlit meadows. Family picnics where Amora's tiny feet took their first wobbly steps. On her first birthday, she reached out with chubby hands for the cake, as her parents Jimmy and Alexandra beamed on either side. Amora was a ray of sunshine. Her laughter could melt even the coldest heart. Alexandra adored dressing her little princess, collecting a rainbow of bows from delicate white lace to glittering pinks each morning, beginning with a ritual. Which bow matches Amora's mood today? Her father, Jimmy, shared his love for the outdoors. He took her fishing, though Amora was far more enchanted by butterflies and flowers than by the line in the water. At the park, her squeals echoed as he pushed her on the swings. At home, a loyal little dog followed her everywhere, joining her tea parties with dolls dressed in tiny outfits. Amora wasn't just a daughter, she was a big sister. She adored her younger sibling and protected her fiercely. By 3, she had become a little princess in every sense. Pink dresses, unicorn headbands, and a smile that lit up amusement parks, family gatherings, and every photo she was in. But life began to shift. Jimmy and Alexandra's relationship fractured, and the laughter faded from their home. The separation tore apart the stable world Amora had known. No more nightly embraces from daddy, no more family picnics. Alexandra, just 20 years old, was left to raise 2 little girls nearly alone. Loneliness is dangerous. In January 2023, searching for comfort, Alexandra turned to Snapchat. There, she met a 2-year-old named Jordan Blake Taylor. In photos, he looked like an ordinary young man, tall, dark-haired, with the practiced charm of someone who knew exactly what to say to a vulnerable heart. For Alexandra, worn down by isolation, he seemed like salvation. But what should have been a slow, cautious acquaintance turned into a whirlwind. Within weeks, Alexandra invited him into her home on Eatontown Road. By February, Jordan had moved in. For 3-year-old Amora and her baby sister, everything changed overnight. A stranger now lived in their house. Amora, shy and cautious with outsiders, suddenly had to accept this man as part of her family. She obeyed, because that's what good children do. But Jordan Taylor was no ordinary man, and soon, obedience would no longer protect her. If Mom said Uncle Jordan would live with them, then that was how it would be. 3-year-old Amora accepted it because obedience was all she knew. Jordan quickly learned the family's weak points. Alexandra was just 20 young, exhausted, raising 2 children alone, and hungry for affection. She worked hard, juggling bills and babies. And in her eyes, Jordan seemed like a lifeline. To him, she was something else entirely, the perfect victim. Because Jordan Taylor carried a past soaked in violence. A past he never erased, only hid behind a charming smile. The 17th of July, 2020, 2.5 years before meeting Alexandra. That night, Jordan was alone with his 6-month-old son, Javon. The baby suddenly stopped breathing. At least, that was Jordan's story. Javon's mother, Shina, was at work when her phone rang. Jordan's voice was flat. "Don't be mad, but the baby doesn't have a pulse. He's in the ambulance." Then he hung up. Minutes later, a message arrived that froze her blood. "I didn't mean to hurt him." Then another, "I killed him." Shayna showed police the texts, but the autopsy came back undetermined. No charges. Case closed. Jordan walked free now, carrying a dark truth. He had killed before and gotten away with it. From 2019 to 2023, his name filled police reports: assault, domestic violence, menacing, terroristic threats, theft, firearms offenses. 14 arrests, 14 mugshots, 14 red flags society ignored. Every time, the system handed him another chance. When Jordan moved into Alexandra's home, he didn't hide his past. He flaunted it. It was part of his game. First, vague hints about trouble with the law. Then bolder confessions brushing off arrests like they were youthful mistakes. Alexandra listened, but didn't challenge him. First test passed. Her curiosity drove her to Google his name. The results should have made any mother grab her children and run. Instead, Alexandra felt drawn in. To a young woman from a quiet Kentucky town, his criminal record didn't scream danger, it whispered excitement. A bad boy with scars and stories. To her, it felt exotic. Jordan studied her closely. No fear, no questions, just fascination. Then he revealed the darkest detail: the death of his infant son. He painted it as a heartbreaking accident, not a crime. Alexandra didn't recoil. She sympathized. She even defended him. When friends warned her, "He's dangerous. You're risking your children's lives," Alexandra dismissed them. She said they were jealous, that they didn't really know him like she did. And in that moment, Jordan Taylor knew he had won. To Alexandra, it didn't matter. She told herself she finally had a real man, even if his past was painted in blood. By mid-February, Jordan knew the truth. This woman would never stop him. Worse, she would help him cover his tracks. He chose his victim with chilling precision. The younger baby was too small, too fragile to give him the twisted reactions he craved. But 3-year-old Amora, she was old enough to feel terror, to understand humiliation, yet still powerless to protect herself or explain the nightmare to others. That innocence, that defenselessness, made her his perfect target. By February, the house on Eatontown Road transformed into a chamber of horrors. The first accident came with strategy, a bruise explained as a fall from the couch. Amora looked at her mother with wide, pleading eyes, pain and confusion swirling. Uncle Jordan was big and terrifying, and somehow, Mom believed him. On the 4th of February, Alexandra posted a photo online, her little girl beside her. Amora's usual bright smile was gone. In its place, a melancholy stare. Investigators would later call it one of the last normal pictures of her. After that, the camera disappeared because her face told too much truth. The accidents multiplied. Falls, doors, furniture. Each story more absurd. Each injury worse. Amora's body became a map of torment, bruises in every stage of healing, cuts that never closed, swelling that spoke of systematic torture. By Valentine's Day, her face was unrecognizable. A photograph from that night became haunting evidence. A 3-year-old girl, her eyes darkened with bruises, lips trembling in a half-smile, trying so hard to be brave. Eventually, Amora stopped asking why Uncle Jordan hurt her. She stopped crying. She learned the cruelest lesson: that silence meant fewer blows. Her tiny body adapted. Her little mind began to fracture. Jordan's text messages to Alexandra grew bolder. "I beat her bad every time I can." Another read, "I whooped Amora." He even described the details. Alexandra's replies didn't defend her daughter, they defended him. "Baby, please tell me you didn't leave a mark. We need those bruises gone by Wednesday before family visits." Her internet history told the same story. How to remove bruises fast. Home remedies for swelling. Not how to protect her daughter, but how to conceal the evidence. On the 15th of February, salvation knocked one last time. A close friend sent frantic messages, begging Alexandra to see the truth. "Why are you letting someone who killed their son watch your kids?" Screenshots later revealed the desperation. The friend listed Jordan's record: reminded her of the suspicious death of his infant, begged her to take the girls and run. Alexandra had 4 days. 4 days to choose her children over a man she had known for mere weeks. 4 days to break free. She chose Jordan. She defended him. And then came the 17th of February, the point of no return. Jordan no longer hid behind excuses. He crossed the line from abuse to attempted murder, pulling out his phone to record himself as he suffocated 3-year-old Amora. The video was sickening. Amora's tiny face already bruised, a gash across her nose, while Jordan pressed his hand over her mouth and nose. Her muffled cries and desperate gasps for air filled the recording. This wasn't rage, it was controlled, deliberate. Jordan was testing limits, studying how much pain a small body could endure, practicing for murder, and he sent it to Alexandra. A mother's natural instinct should have been horror, but her response was chillingly casual. Be careful not to leave evidence. That same day, Jordan's threats escalated. I could ruin you, Alex. I'm going to make the whole house a crime scene, Alexandra's reply. I don't want to see. I only want you, baby. The next day, another video. Amora, trying to eat cereal, her head bobbing, her movements unsteady. Brain injuries from repeated beatings were shutting her body down. She was failing before their eyes. The 19th of February, 2023. Evil claimed her life. At 8:30 a.m., Alexandra left for work, abandoning her daughters with a monster. Text messages that morning exposed her priorities. Jordan, I'm about to flip on her. What are you going to do? You're not home. Alexandra, she's just a baby. Jordan, I'm going to choke you. Don't question me. She called him a few times, but never left work, never called police, never asked for help. After a brief phone call, Jordan interpreted her silence as permission. For the next 2 hours, Jordan Taylor unleashed years of sadistic fantasies on a 3-year-old child. He beat her, he violated her, he tortured her methodically, savoring the power. Then, silence. At 2:30 p.m., he called 911, his voice calm, almost bored. My girl fell and won't wake up. Paramedics rushed in, only to confront a nightmare. Amora's body carried 70 separate injuries, bruises, brain hemorrhages, internal trauma. Evidence of sexual assault was undeniable. Her gums torn, her throat damaged from repeated strangulation. Bite marks scarred her skin. Even her tiny hands and feet bore defensive wounds, proof she had tried to fight back against an adult 6 times her size. But her small body finally gave out. At Baptist Health Corbin, doctors tried desperately to revive her. They couldn't even find a vein, her arms were too battered. They had to pierce her shin to administer medication. Nothing worked. Amora Michelle Smallwood, who loved unicorns and pink dresses, who believed adults would keep her safe, was pronounced dead at 3 years old. And then came Alexandra's final betrayal. Arriving at the hospital, she screamed not at Jordan, not at herself, but at the doctors. This is your fault. You killed her. 3 days later, she wrote on Facebook, no one knows what happened that day. I was at work. If I thought my kids were unsafe, I'd never have left them. Her words dripped with self-pity, making her daughter's death about her own victimhood. Jordan Taylor was arrested within hours. His story about a fall was shattered by medical evidence. The autopsy revealed the full horror: 70 injuries, multiple brain hemorrhages, internal trauma, torn tissue no child should endure. 2 months later, the community packed the courtroom for Jordan's trial. But the true shock came when deputies turned, not to Jordan, but to Alexandra. Right there, in the courtroom where she came to support her daughter's killer, she was handcuffed and led away. Friends and relatives wearing t-shirts that read, "Justice for Daddy's Princess," watched in disbelief. In Kentucky, the law is clear. Parents have an affirmative duty to protect their children. Failing to act is a crime equal to committing the abuse. And Alexandra's text messages, internet searches, and ignored warnings made her guilt undeniable. In October 2024, Jordan Taylor pleaded guilty to murder, sodomy, and strangulation. His sentence: life without parole. The plea deal spared Jordan Taylor from the death penalty prosecutors had prepared to pursue, but justice still caught up with him. In October 2024, he received life without parole. In April 2025, after a week-long trial and only 50 minutes of jury deliberation, Alexandra Ward was convicted of complicity to murder and strangulation. She received life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 20 years. A young mother who should have protected her daughters, now branded forever as the accomplice to their destruction. But Jordan Taylor's crimes did not end with Amora. In August 2023, a Clay County grand jury indicted him for the 2020 death of his 6-month-old son, Javon. A death once labeled undetermined was now revealed as part of a chilling pattern. In September 2026, Taylor will stand trial again this time. Prosecutors may once more pursue the death penalty. Amora Smallwood lived just 3 short years. In that time, she gave more joy and love than some manage in a lifetime. She adored her little sister, trusted the very adults who destroyed her, and endured unimaginable cruelty with a courage that shames every adult who failed to act. In Corbin, Kentucky, people still gather on her birthday. They release balloons shaped like unicorns, the symbol of the little princess who never let go of her magic. Her grave is never without flowers. Her name is spoken with love, remembered with purpose. Because some lights burn too brightly to be extinguished by darkness, some stories must never be silenced, and some children deserve better than the world they received. Rest in peace, little angel Amora. Your voice will never fade.